of the best in pop culture and sci-fi fandom in Kansas City.
At this very time, actor and best-selling author, Cary Elwes!
Wow, hi.
Hi!
This is quite a full room. Thank you, thank you.
How you doing so far today, Cary?
Good to be in Kansas City. Wow, thank you.
Well, Cary, if it's okay with you, we're just gonna jump right on into it. Let's talk a little bit about The Princess Bride. So, okay, from what I understand, there was a weird mishap that happened like on the set of Princess Bride. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, there were a few mishaps on the film. I was quite accident prone on the film. What happened was I was preparing to shoot a scene with Robin Wright where we tumble down the hill, and I say those 3 words, and Andre, God bless him, could not get around the set very easily because, you know, when you're 400 pounds, you know, it was very hard for him to move around easily. And so we got him an all-terrain vehicle. And it's the only one that was in the United Kingdom at the time. If you have any cell service here, you can look it up. Just Google image Andre the Giant and all-terrain vehicle, ATV. And you'll see a picture of a very happy, smiling giant sitting on what looks like the tricycle from Saw. And you've never seen, I mean, he was a happy guy to begin with, but the beam of joy on this man's face when this thing showed up cannot be underestimated. Anyway, he didn't need it to get to work. He was just terrassing around the countryside on this thing. And there were crew members chasing after him, and he was ruining takes. It was wonderful. And finally, I was preparing to do a separate shot, and he came up on this thing. It was very loud, and he came up on it, and it went like this. He came up and he went, he goes, "Hello, boss." He called everybody boss, which is hilarious because you have to talk to him like that. He goes, "Hey, boss, you like my toy?" I said, "It's very nice, Andre." He goes, "It is nice, you want to try it?" I said, "Well, Andre, I have to shoot the scene now." And before I finished my sentence, he just took off. So I shot a take with Robin, and we started to move on to get to the next angle. And he came up again, and he went, and this is what he said to me, swear to God, he goes, "You know you want to." Now, when a giant says that to you, there's a lot of pressure. And I'd never ridden an all-terrain vehicle before, and I probably had no business getting on it. But I said, "Oh, all right, you know, fine." And I took off my mask. I thought that was a good idea to get better peripheral vision. And his bodyguard, he had a bodyguard. I know, isn't that hilarious? I said to the guy, "What are you guarding him from, the flu?" This guy, he was only about 5 foot, he comes up, he goes, "Oh, it's very easy, governor. It's just like a motorbike. You know, you got clutch pedal, on-off switch, lights, you won't need those, and brake, that's important. Bob's your uncle." And I thought, that should have been a warning, right? So Andre gets off this thing, and it went up another 8 feet. And I get on it, and I had no idea really how to use it at all. So I put the thing in first gear, and I lurched forward, and I didn't go more than half a foot or 2 feet, and I went over a rock, and I caught my left big toe between the clutch pedal and the rock, and it bent all the way backwards. It was great. It made a very clean cracking sound of the bone breaking inside my big toe. It was wonderful. And it's amazing when you break a limb how quickly the sweat glands just open up. Because suddenly I was just drenched in sweat, and the thing stalled, and the crew came running up, and obviously they were very concerned, and the set nurse came over, and I'm thinking to myself, "Oh my God, I can't believe I just broke my toe. That's so crazy." We were literally 1 week into shooting. And I'm thinking, that's it, I'm gonna get fired. I mean, how can I be the best swordsman in the world with 1 foot? You know, it's just not gonna happen, right? So the set nurse, God bless her, comes up to me, and she says, "Oh, what's happened? What happened?" I said, "Oh, it's not." I was acting like the Black Knight in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. "No, it's nothing. It's nothing. It's just a flesh wound. It's nothing." She goes, "Let's have a look at it." I said, "No, you don't have to." She goes, "Yeah, I think we should." So she takes off my boot, which didn't hurt at all, and then she took off my sock, and there it was, this very swollen, very strangely multicolored toe, and pointing in the wrong direction. And she said, "Ooh," which is not a medical term. She went, "Ooh, look at that." I said, "Well, can you fix it?" She goes, "No, look, it's broken." I said, "No, it's not." She goes, "Yes, look, it's the wrong color and it's pointed in the wrong direction." I said, "Well, you have to fix." She goes, I'm not a doctor, I'm a set nurse." And she opened up a bag and she goes, "I got something for a headache.
Oh my God.
Something for a tummy ache. I mean, I don't know how to fix a broken limb." And I said, "Please," you know, because I'm thinking I'm going to be fired at any minute now. I said, "Please, is there anything you can do?" And she goes, "Well, I suppose I could make a makeshift splint." I said, "Great, let's do that." So she literally grabbed a twig and she pushed the toe back. Again, didn't hurt at all. And then she taped it to the other toes. She said, "That'll keep it in place." I said, "Great." No, it wasn't that great, but I said great. Anyway, so she put the shoe didn't fit, they had to cut it and the whole thing. And now I'm limping to the set. And I get in the van to drive up to shoot the next sequence. And it was the longest drive I'd ever taken in my life, because I'm thinking, a week into shooting this film, I'm going to be fired. I can see the headlines now. "Twit English actor breaks toe on all-terrain vehicle belonging to a giant." It's a bit of a long headline, but that's what was running through my head. Anyway, I get to the set, and there's Rob Reiner, the director, wonderful man. He's scratching his beard, and I get out of the van, I put all my pressure on the foot and just walk right up to him like no big deal. And he goes, "Hey, Cary, how you doing?" Like that. Like Joey and Friends. I go, "I'm doing fine, how are you?" He goes, "I'm good, but how you doing?" Like that. And then I knew he knew, right? And I said, "Oh God, Rob, I'm so sorry. I feel like such a twit. I was fooling around on Andre's all-terrain vehicle, and I went over a rock, and I think I broke my toe." He goes, "You think I don't know? I'm the director. It's been on the walkie-talkie for the last half hour." I said, "I'm so sorry." He goes, "Well, why didn't you tell me?" I said, "I was afraid you'd fire me." He goes, "Fire you? I can't fire you. You're the only Wesley there is." Which really warmed my heart, you know? God bless him. He said, "Can you walk?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "Can you run?" I said, "It'll be an interpretive dance." And God bless him, he let me work around it, and you can see some of the interpretive dance as we run into the fire swamp. I'm hopping on one leg. And I think the scene that we shot at the top of the hill, when I sit down on that log, I did the most absurd thing with my leg. Something ludicrous like that. And Rob came up to me after the take and he goes, "That thing you did with your leg, it was so elegant." "Oh, right, you broke your toe." So there you go. Lesson learned. Never fool around on all-terrain vehicles unless you know what you're doing, because them things is dangerous. And always tell the truth, it's easier. That's what I learned that day. Yeah.
I have to commend you. I really loved your impression of Andre. That was great. And I'm also a huge wrestling fan, so I'm just curious, what was your first day like working with Andre the Giant?
Wow, Andre's first day. Okay, so the first day I had with Andre was the scene on the parapet where we're about to storm the castle. And I'm mostly dead there, which was a very easy thing for me to do, obviously. And the three of us, and they built this fake castle wall made out of plywood and plaster, so that they kind of had a view of Humperdinck's Florin Castle in the background, right? And Rob loves to shoot the rehearsal, so he said, "Let's just shoot the rehearsal. Why? See what we get. Let's see what we get." That's how he directs, by the way. And so we said, fine. And so we start rolling, and I think you guys know the lines better than I do, but I think Fezzik says, I wonder how long before it takes effect. And then Montoya says, your guess is as good as mine. And then I wake up and I say, I'll fight you both together, I'll beat you both apart. Is that right? Yeah, thank you. And then Fezzik says, I guess not very long. Like that, right? About the miracle pill. And he didn't get to the word long when he let out the most monumental fart. No. I'm talking decibel level that can be heard in Beijing. Okay, we've all accused each other of giant farts, have we not, in this room, right? This was a giant's fart, people. Somebody timed it, it was 16 seconds. I looked up and the sound guy was lifting his headphones, I swear to God, off his head. And the whole plaster set was shaking. The whole thing was shaking like it was an earthquake. And we were all like in shock, you know. And it went on for 16 seconds. It was like the scene in the movie when he goes, everybody move, and everyone stopped and looked at it. It's just like that. There were no birds singing, nothing. Just nothing. And I looked over at Andre, and God bless him, he had always had a smile on his face. Now he had a beatific look on his face, and he was rocking back and forth like this, smiling as if he was letting go of something he'd been holding on to forever. And for some reason there was steam coming out of the top of his head. I don't know why, but the combination of this extremely long and very deafening fart and the steam coming off the top of his head was all too much for me. And I broke down. I just couldn't handle. And when it was over, and it was after 16 seconds, don't try that at home, by the way. 16 seconds, stunned silence. Now, what's so great, in America, you know, everybody calls a fart. They're like, dude, take it outside, man, or you know what I mean? Or, wow, that's intense. But in England, they all get very weird when someone farts. They all get very quiet. They're like, oh, is that a storm coming in or something? They just don't know how to deal. They don't know how to deal. Was that the dog? But absolute, like I said, no birds singing, nothing. And Rob Reiner broke the silence. He goes, this is true. He goes, hey, Andre, you okay? And Andre, without missing a beat, he goes, I am now, boss. First day. First day. And we all have tinnitus from it in one ear. It's bonkers. But I didn't find out until I met Hulk Hogan that apparently that was Andre's way of breaking the ice, by breaking the wind. It was extraordinary. First day. And of course, when we did the second take and he got to the word long, we were like, oh no. No. It was great.
Well, now, thanks to you, instead of thinking about his wonderful career, I'm going to be thinking about him farting. Good. So thank you for that in this panel.
He would enjoy that. He was a wonderful guy, he really was. I miss him to this day. He was a wonderful guy. Yeah, thank you.
So my next question for you, from what I heard, Wallace Shawn, he was nervous playing his role of Vizzini. So is there anything that you can tell us about that?
Well, he's here. You could ask him yourself.
I might have to.
He was, he was very, in fact, what was so weird is, I didn't know this at the time, but apparently Wally thought he was going to be fired as well. His agent had told him that he wasn't the first choice for the role of Vincini. I know, isn't that awful? Yeah. Poor guy. And in fact, the agent told him, not only was he not the first choice, but that the producers wanted Danny DeVito instead. And it was awful. Isn't that awful? And the poor guy was wandering around and telling everyone, you know, I'm going to be fired, and I'm just standing in for Danny DeVito, and, you know, and he even went up to Rob and he goes, I don't know why you cast me in this role. I'm not a Sicilian, I'm a Jew from New York. Why do you cast me? And Rob said to him, because you're funny. When you get angry, your whole face turns red. It's funny. And to this day, I don't think he realizes how great he is. And, you know, it's inconceivable, right? That anyone, am I right? Who else could have played that role? No offense to Danny, but no one could touch Vincini better than, you know, and he's a wonderful guy. He's a wonderfully smart guy. I mean, he's incredibly literate and has written many books and plays, and I mean, he speaks Greek and Latin, so when he says those lines like Socrates, morons, it's real, you know? And, yeah, so he's just a terrific guy, and he's here, and he's not going to be here for very long, so if you want to come down and say hi to him, he's a lovely man. Him and Chris Sarandon are both here today, so yeah. We're all still friends, which is a wonderful thing. It's very rare in the business that you get to work with folks and then maintain a relationship over the years, and they're like my extended family, really. Yeah.
And we're so thrilled to have all three of you here this weekend, so thank you so much. Thank you. So one of my other favorite actors has to be Billy Crystal.
Right.
And so I'm just curious about what it was like getting to work with the legendary Billy Crystal.
Well, I was a huge fan of all the actors that Rob cast in the film, because he's very meticulous about his casting, and he cast Chris Guest, of course, who's one of his best friends, to play Rugen, and I knew him from Saturday Night Live, and I knew Billy from Saturday Night Live. I also knew Billy from a show called Soap. Do you remember Soap?
Yes!
That actually aired in England when I was a kid, and a very advanced and very cool show, and so I was a huge fan. I couldn't believe my luck that I was going to get to work with him, and when he arrived, he and Carol Kane, in October, I asked the director, I said to Rob, can I go and say hi to him? He said, yeah, he's in the makeup trailer, go say hi, go say hi. So I went to the makeup trailer, I knocked on the door, and I went in, and there was Billy in the makeup chair, and he was being made up by his makeup artist from Saturday Night Live, and he had this white wig and this incredible latex, prosthetics that they put on his face to make him look, almost 2,000 years old, and I introduced myself, and he was very sweet and said hi, and then I noticed he had two photographs on the mirror in front of him, and one was of an old lady, and the other was of a guy, and I said, what's with the photographs? He goes, well, that's Casey Stengel, the Yankees manager, and that's my grandmother, and the combination of the two is going to be Miracle Max. Which is interesting, right? And as he started to get more and more latex put on, they did more makeup and gave him varicose veins and contact lenses and great big bushy eyebrows, he started getting into character. And he started hacking like this. And then he started becoming Max. So I literally watched him turn into Max, which was a wonderful thing. And then when he was done with makeup, he stayed in character, which was great. And if you're lucky enough to work with actors who do that, it's a wonderful thing. I've done it a couple of times for certain roles, and it's very special. But anyway, he was Max the whole time. And he said to me, hey, Cary, you want to get something to eat? I went, absolutely. I got to see this, So we go over to the studio commissary, which is a lot like a high school cafeteria, and we get our trays, and he's in full makeup and costume. And we go down the line, and he says to the lady behind the counter, he goes, miss, the shepherd's pie, is it spicy? Like that. And she goes, not particularly, sir. And he goes, you don't know my colon. And he started doing this kind of stand-up with everybody that he met. The valet, everybody. It was extraordinary. And then we get to the set, and I was getting into hair and makeup, and I came out and found him on the set with Rob and Carol. And Rob, as usual, said, let's shoot the rehearsal. And he came up to me just before we shot, and he said, Cary, you can't breathe too much because we can see your chest going up and down in the monitor. I said, well, I gotta breathe at some point. He goes, don't worry, we won't kill you, we won't kill you. And then he walked over to Billy, and he whispered something in his ear. And I asked him when I interviewed him for the book, I go, by the way, that day, 30 years ago, when you whispered in Billy's ear, what did you say to him? He goes, it's a good question, Cary. I'm glad you asked that. I said, well, what did he say? I said to him, just go for it. And I'm thinking, he's already in character. What's he gonna do, And sure enough, Rob yelled action, and Billy launched into literally 3 minutes of Yiddish stand-up comedy. I mean, it was just medieval Yiddish stand-up, just crazy. And a lot of it was kind of blue. I can't repeat, there were kids here, so. But for the adults, it involved sheep and Vikings. You get the idea. And you can explain it to the kids later. And but it was pretty crazy stuff, and of course we couldn't stay still without laughing, and of course I'm supposed to be dead, right? And so they got rid of me. They said, you can't work in this scene. They replaced me with the rubber dummy that Fezzik carries around in the forest. So then now Billy realized it was Mandy's turn, so we started working the stand-up on him. And Mandy said he sustained the only injury he got on the film was a bruised rib from trying not to laugh, which I didn't know you could get, but apparently you did. And poor Andre couldn't understand a word he was saying anyway. He was just smiling anyway. But that's how our first day went down with Billy. Yeah. Medieval Yiddish stand-up. It was great.